Okay, so I think we are live. If you can put a comment in the bottom for me, see just the comments here. If you're able to comment and let me know if you can see this or not. It's the first time I've done this. I'd done one run through it before, and it wasn't working. So apologies, it's taken 15 minutes to go on. It'll give us another few minutes. So we've got 3 people on. That's good. Aye, that's great. Cool. Okay, so there's a few of you that are on, and just looking to see if you can hear me. So if you can write a comment that you can hear me or not. Let's check this. So thanks for bearing with us, guys. I appreciate it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, thank you. Right. So I'm going to try and look at a few of. I'll look at. I've got some stuff to cover. What we had. I put a post up a couple of hours ago, and the post said, "Can we stop ignoring our dogs when they jump or when they jump on us? They're trying to communicate a need." So when I put these posts up like this, I'm not doing it in order to try and be controversial, in order to annoy anybody. There's a variety of people that consume this content, which is totally fine, but a lot of time we're not all on the same page, and we're not all in the same place in our learning journey. So all the content I try to provide is to try and educate for a less aversive, more positive approach to training our dogs. Okay, so that's always what I'm looking for. Okay. Good, so we've got 25 people on, that's great. So thanks for joining us today, massive thanks. Alright, so some critical analysis, that's the first thing that I'd like to look at. Anytime that you're looking at anything online, we want to analyse it, and we want to analyse it hopefully from a position of education. Okay, so if we're not informed, we can't see whether it's true or not. Okay, so just as a very quick example, there was and a lot of them are well-meaning posts, and I get that they're well-meaning, so it's not critical of anybody that's put these posts up. What we've got, one of them said, avoid on-lead greetings with dogs. Okay, so if your dog is on lead and another dog is off lead, or your dog is on lead and another dog is off lead, we should avoid those. And my critical brain will turn around and say, like, all the time, is that what we have to do all the time? Okay, so I'll look at that and say, now also look at what is a person trying to communicate by doing that. Okay, and I understand what the person's trying to, who's posted that, is trying to communicate. So we did a session this afternoon, and it was two couples that had 2 dogs, so 2 people and 4 dogs, and we did the whole session on lead. Okay, but because we moved well and we kept the lead slack, then everything was cool. All right, so we did on lead greetings and everything went well. Okay, but that's because I'm looking at why is somebody saying we shouldn't do on lead greetings, and what are they trying to achieve. Okay, so critical analysis, but it has to come from a position of education, and we've seen over the last year and a half, we've seen a complete lack of, well, not complete, a huge lack of critical analysis when talking about what's happening with the pandemic. Okay, whether wearing face masks and getting vaccinated and social distancing, there's a lack of critical analysis, and lots of it is due to lack of education. Okay, so that's the comment or the statement I made. Can we stop ignoring our dogs when they jump? They're trying to communicate a need. Okay, I'm going to break all that down. Now the problem that we have with this is why these things are good. So we've now got 40 people, which is excellent. So thanks for all of you for joining me. We've got 40 people on the call, and we can actually have a discussion about this rather than just having, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16 words. Okay, so 16 words to make a point without context. and then people start jumping in and saying, are you suggesting this, and what are you suggesting, and so on and so on. Okay, so one of the things that one of the comments that, and again, not a criticism of anybody making the comments, one of the comments that was made was, so we're just supposed to let our dogs jump on us then, or along those lines. Okay, now nowhere in that statement that I've just read out does it say that we should let our dogs jump on us, or reinforce the dog for jumping on us, or train that behaviour, or deem that behaviour to be acceptable. Okay, but we have this gut reaction to these statements. Okay, and this is why I'm asking us to take a step back and have a think about this. Okay, all right. Now, if you've commented on us on this earlier on, okay, and you've joined this discussion, a couple of the comments were made were, what's the alternative? Okay, now my initial thoughts are you're actually making my point for me. Okay, you're making my point beautifully for me by saying what's the alternative. So because I at that moment didn't provide an alternative to your understanding, or the person who's commenting is understanding, that then leads to some sort of feeling of frustration. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. And now, I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I get from the comments that the person might think that I'm telling them that they're wrong. Okay, so if the position is you're telling me that I'm wrong for doing that, for not ignoring the dog when so I'm ignoring the dog when they're jumping on me, and you're telling me that's wrong, what's the alternative? Okay, that's what our dogs are going through all the time. Okay, all the time. That behaviour is unacceptable. What's the alternative? How is the dog supposed to know what the alternative is? What is the signal for that alternative? And what happens when I do that alternative behaviour, the one that I liked? Where's the reinforcement? Okay. So lots of people made they did brilliantly by illustrating this point for me, and it was fantastic, right? It was really, really cool. All right. Now, every behaviour has a function. Okay, so there's now 43 of us on the call. I can make educated guesses that the function of all of your behaviour is some sort of curiosity or interest. Okay, so you're interested in this topic. That's the motivation. Okay, that's you come on to this call. That's your behaviour, and the reinforcers or punishers, okay, or the consequence of doing that is you get that need met or not met. Okay, so that's what you've been trying to do. So you wouldn't be coming on to this call if you weren't interested in dog training, if you weren't interested in positive dog training, probably, and if you weren't wanting to learn more about this. Okay, all right, so that's the function of the behaviour. All right, now when we look at I'll get to, there's a number of reasons why our dog will do stuff, which I'm going to cover. Now, the function of behaviour, okay, so say for talking's sake I pick up a glass, or this glass of water, okay. If I come in and I'm parched, okay, so I've not had anything, I've been out in the desert and I've not had anything to drink for, 2 days or something like this, right? And I come in and scream at you that I want a glass of water, okay. Say you don't like me screaming at you, okay, and you decide that you're going to ignore me or ignore the behaviour of me screaming for a glass of water and not provide the glass of water, okay. You might get less screaming from me, you might, okay, but you're doing nothing about the fact that I need a glass of water to parch my thirst, okay. So with that in mind, so that's the example I'd like you to keep in mind when we're doing this, okay. And the next example is, I mean this is in no disrespect at all, okay. The laws of learning are universal to all species. 20 something years ago, I worked in a day centre with adults with learning disabilities, okay. And one afternoon, was helping one of the women into the minibus. So Janet got in and I put her seatbelt on, okay. And as I turned round, I didn't know this, but she'd slid down the seat, okay, and the seatbelt was caught across her throat, and she was within reach, so she reached forward and grabbed a massive handful of the skin in my back, okay, and grabbed it and held it. So I yelped out in pain, and now the reason for that was she needed help, okay, because this is cut, the seatbelt is cut across her throat. She didn't speak, okay, so she was non-verbal. So the only way she could communicate that need in that moment was by reaching out and grabbing a hold of the skin on my back. Okay, so when I turned round, I was like, oh God, okay, like Janet's hurt herself. So I immediately helped her sit up and took the seatbelt off until we got her settled. Okay, now from this ignoring your dog, okay, that's an unwanted behaviour. It's pretty unwanted, getting grabbed in the back, okay, by any individual, okay, grabbed painfully in the back, but the Janet doing that behaviour had a need that was needing met, okay, she had a need that she was trying to communicate to me, and that was the best behaviour that she could come up with, okay. So if your dog is jumping on you, they are telling you in that moment they've got a need that they're trying to communicate to be met, and that is the best behaviour which they can do in that moment given their learning history, okay. And when we've got that in mind, it means we can start approaching this critically, and rather than saying that's a nonsense behaviour and I don't like it, okay. So if you've got any thoughts on any of that just now, if that's even if you just put up that's resonating with you, or that's a light bulb moment, if you can stick that in the comment to give me just a little bit of feedback, okay. Okay, now what we've got with what the science says in this is we reinforce behaviours that we want, okay, reinforce desired behaviours, and don't allow the undesirable or the unwanted behaviour to be reinforced, okay, and then that gets put through a million filters, okay, between what a scientific textbook says on behaviour change, and gets filtered and diluted and changed and softened to ignore your dog, okay, and it's gone from that to here, okay. So it goes from don't allow the unwanted behaviours to be reinforced, reinforce the behaviours that we do want, okay, and then further to that is set up your environment so that the wanted behaviours happen more and the unwanted behaviours happen less, okay. And I'll get to how this relates to jumping later on, but the background of this is important. And again, so we've been on now for, let's see how long we've been on, 13 minutes, okay, alright, and we're only just skimming the surface of this, okay, and I've been talking thousands of words in the last 13 minutes now, okay, and 48 people staying with me, so that's great, so thank you. Right, so looking at feedback loop, just as a tiny aside, we've now got 50 with us. Those numbers on my screen telling me how many people are on this call, okay, is feedback from me to continue doing this, alright. So if those numbers started dwindling, okay, and they'll probably start dwindling the longer I go on, because I get that it's a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening and people will have other things to do. But if it got down to single digits and then it got down to, you know, low single digits, and then that come up as a 0, I'd start going, well, there's not much point in me doing this now, is there, because I've got no audience. So I would stop, okay. Alright, so you see how that feedback loop happens, okay. Right, so that don't reinforce the wanted behaviour, reinforce the wanted behaviour. Now it's wanted according to us, okay, because the dog doesn't know any different, okay. Then ignore, it gets diluted to ignore the unwanted behaviour, okay, and now it gets down to ignore the dog when they're doing those unwanted behaviours, and then further diluted to ignore the dog, okay. So you see how it gets just diluted down and down and down again, okay. Now so the question that I would ask you if you're getting jumped on by your dog when you come into the house, okay, is your dog jumps on you, okay, and we're taught to ignore our dog, okay, so that's what, you know, popular dog training says. Ignore your dog when you come in and ignore them when they're jumping on you. Turn your back on them, okay, and so on and so on. Now, for most of us who live in most functional and functioning households and families or workplaces, would you ever walk into your house or your workplace and ignore your family, ignore your children, ignore your spouse or your partner, okay, when they're saying hello to you, okay? So that wouldn't be right, would it? Because the person is happy to see you, and you decide that you're going to ignore them until they're all settled, okay? All right. Now, but we're taught to do this to our dogs, okay? So this is how, I'm thinking insidious is probably too strong a word, okay? But this is how damaging this can be to your relationship with your dog, okay? All right. Now, what I do so this is how I did it with Logan when I first got him. So I've had him now 5 years coming up in a few weeks' time. Okay, it's his anniversary of him coming home to stay with us. And so he's 34 kilos of bulldog, and he would run down my hallway and jump up and headbutt me, okay, at speed. All right, so that's a behaviour that I don't particularly like. Okay, I don't really want to get headbutted in the face by a 34 kilo dog. Now, what is he trying to achieve by running forward and jumping into my space? Okay, so that's he is looking to say hello to me. Okay, because I've been out for a few hours. All right. So this is how I resolved it. Okay, I walked as I came in. Okay, first thing that I did was I knelt down on the ground. So as soon as I opened the door, I kneeled down on the ground. He wants access to my face. I will give him access to my face, and I'll give him access to my face based on him having 4 feet on the ground. But that means I have to change my behaviour. Okay, so I would open a door and come in. Okay, now the rule that I have is that I don't want you coming too close into my space. All right, so this body is mine, and I generally don't like others invading that space. Okay, and I mean invading with being unwanted contact. Okay, so I would put my hands up. All right, so I would come in and I would put my hands up here. That blocks him from coming in, but it allows me to pet him. So I'm down low and I'm giving him access to my face to let him, you know, sniff me. He's not allowed to lick me. That's a rule that I have. You may be different. Okay, and then I pet him. Okay, when he's settled, I now get up and I walked into the kitchen and I gave him a treat. Okay, so that was where we started. All right, so we did a few repetitions of that over the next couple of days, and then the next time I came in, I would walk in and I would walk 2 feet into the ground, into my hallway, and go down and do the same greeting ritual. Okay, so down again, saying hi to him. Okay, and then we did that, and then go into the kitchen, give him a treat. Okay, and then play with his ball and say hi to him and make a fuss of him. Okay, and over the course of several weeks, I started progressing further and further into the house, and because Logan was anticipating me saying hi to him, and I was careful with the plan of how I was training it, I didn't ask for too much. He then starts going, well, all right, I recognise you take a step in and you say hi to me now, then it's taken 2 steps in, 3 steps in and 4 steps in and so on until I'm able to get into the kitchen. Now the other thing that I also did was I didn't ignore him through any point during this. As I walk in the door and he greets me, hi pal, how you doing? Okay, and then I walk forward, down his level, say hi to him. Okay, now that whole process did not take me 2 weeks to do. Okay, so say twice a day of me coming in and out the house. That's 28 repetitions, there or thereabouts. Okay, and before I walk in and my dog goes, oh, there's dad. I walk into the kitchen, he joins me, I get down on my knees again, and I still do this to this day, say hi to my dog, get him a treat. Okay, now what we also did today was I recognised that when I had been out briefly, and when I came in he was excited to see me, and I could see from his demeanour that he was more playful. Okay, So I said to him, go and get a toy, okay? And he goes to get a toy, and we have a little play and a fuss, okay? So you see, the whole time there, I am constructing the behaviours that I want, and at no point am I ignoring my dog. And I'm also meeting his need of saying hello to me, okay? So that's how I structured that, okay? And I would suggest that if you're being assaulted by your dog when you come in, that's what you're looking to do as well, okay? Now, the other questions that come up from this are, if your dog has an expectation that every single person is going to say hi to them, okay? Now, I look at that and go, where does that come from? It generally comes from your dog being over-socialised as a puppy or as a young dog. Everybody coming up and saying hi to your dog, okay? So we have to now teach the dog the difference between those people are cool to say hi to with your 4 feet on the ground, and those people are not cool to, or not available to say hi to, and you ignore them, okay? And now what you've done there is, the dog is expecting reinforcement from the people that they're not allowed to say hello to, and we've been denied that. So the way that I do that is I then supply something else. So I will supply giving the dog a fuss, giving the dog some treats, maybe playing with the dog, or moving away and letting the dog sniff, okay? So if I'm denying reinforcement on one hand, and this is our philosophy within our business, we supply it elsewhere, and it's so easy to supply it elsewhere, okay? And through doing that, the dog now starts picking up the signals from us and from the other person. That person's there to say hi to, and that person's there not to say hi to, okay? And when you're training this, you work with your most sensible friends first. So the ones that are going to follow your instructions to say, see when you're saying hi to the dog, hands up to block him so that you can take a hold of his collar or his harness and hold it, pet him like this and say hi to him, make a fuss, and your dog eventually will disengage, okay? And then it's the next person who can come in without getting down so low, and we build a number of people into that until you can get those kind of people that don't listen to anything, know better, get your dogs excited and wound up and so on, okay? So if you've got any questions, I'm going to finish up in another few minutes, okay? That's maybe 22 minutes or something I've been talking, and I think that's probably more than enough for this live, okay? It's looking at the behavioural principles of this, okay, and then recognize or working out how do we apply those behavioural principles to our dogs, okay. Now I'm going to put up in the remarks here, oh, not wrong, that's not the right one, let me find it. Okay, so if this has been of use to you, okay, that link there is for our dog training and behaviour modification program, which is £15 a month. Okay, so that's about the price of a cup of coffee per week, or the price of a cinema ticket per month, there or thereabouts. Okay, you get new lessons every couple of days, and we also do a full. So I do one of these types of calls every other week just now, and we'll take one of these aspects of things that are going round that you see online or popular stuff, and then my own stuff, and we fully discuss it, and they last about an hour or so. Okay, so if you are interested, there's a few people that I can see that are already on this call. They're on the program, and I get thanks Angela, thank you. So it doesn't take, it's only the lessons are between 5 and 10 minutes, and there's longer ones, so if you get time at the weekend you can look at them as well. Okay, so that's there for you. Okay, the more understanding that we have of this, the better your life with your dog will be, and the better your dog's life will be overall, because we're now communicating with them in a way that they properly understand and is easy for them to understand, and is not stressful, and is not arbitrary. Okay, so Lisa, you've asked for thoughts on managing this in a multi-dog household. Okay, so with any multi-dog households, or any time we make something more challenging, the answer to that is always more foundation training. Okay, so you would have to, when your dogs are not if there's all that excitement when we're coming in the door, that's not the best learning environment for your dog. Okay, so I would, if it was multi-dog household for me, and with say we've got 3 or 4 dogs, we teach them individually to be able to accept petting well. Then we teach them to be able to accept petting and saying hello when there's 2 there, then when there's 3 there, then when there's 4 there. Okay, and that's a project for you to work on. So when we walk in the door, it means that when we put those signals up of saying we stand here like this, or whatever your cue is, okay, you then the dogs then recognise those signals. Okay, so when I used to do this with my younger nephews and nieces when they were young, and I kind of taught them to kind of stand to attention, right? But it was done with humour, okay? It was like, like this, okay? So if I walked in the door and I was mobbed by them, I would kind of go, like this, and they would stand that way, and laugh, and then I would say hi to them, okay? And then we would say, let's go and get a snack or whatever, okay? So that training or that teaching happens before we need it, but that's exactly the same as every other training or every other behaviour that we do. We learn how to drive the car well so that we know how to handle the car in difficult conditions, so if it's snowing or raining, but you generally don't learn how to drive a car at speed in the snow. Okay, that's not an ideal learning environment. Okay, so Karen's asked, are they recorded? Yeah, so they're all recorded, so you've got access to them. They're drip fed, the lessons, but as long as you keep your subscription current, you've got access to that. Okay, and thanks for Natalie, that's very kind. That's very kind, so thanks for that comment. All right, I've done this now this is going into my 13th or 14th year, there or thereabouts, okay? And I'm constantly trying to get feedback to improve things, to make your life with your dog better, and then hopefully your life full on. All right. So massive thanks for joining us. There's over 50 people have stayed with us for the whole half hour, so I'm hugely appreciative of that. And sorry I was late 15 minutes, so just figuring out how to go live with this new software. All right. So that I'll stick that link back up there for you. Okay, and if you're interested, then please sign up, and the next live class is a week on Wednesday, but there's plenty there to be getting on with for you if you're interested. All right, so thanks folks, and hopefully we'll see you again.